So there could be 10 people in the room.
Yeah. Could be. So it's more than 80 people.
Yeah, we're on.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Alpha Omega's Harvest Celebration virtual tasting experience. Thrilled to have you all here joining us in the beautiful Rutherford region of Napa Valley at Alpha Omega Winery. My name is Barrett Spiegel. I'm the virtual ambassador here at Alpha Omega, and I'm going to be your moderator for our virtual experience today. I do have one request as moderator, my friends. If you could keep your microphones on mute through the duration of the tasting, we would truly appreciate it. Helps with the audio for everyone joining in. We do want this to be an interactive experience. We want to connect with you. I know you're going to have questions, comments about the wines. We're going to have some trivia that we're going to need answers to during this tasting. You can do all of that through your chat box that's at the bottom of the Zoom window. So please keep microphones on mute, and we'll connect with you through the chat box at the bottom of the Zoom window here. Again, thrilled to have you with us. Stunning day here in Napa Valley. As you can see, we're overlooking our fountains here on our terrace and our patio at Alpha Omega. We've got two delicious wines to taste. We've got an incredible food demonstration here as well. A lot of fun to be had this afternoon, and we're happy to have you here. Before we get started, we got to introduce this all-star cast. We put them all together again, and we're happy to have you here. Winemaker Henrik Poulsen. Welcome, Henrik. Master Sommelier Bob Bath is with us again today. We're so lucky, as always, to have our wonderful vintners of Alpha Omega, Robin and Michelle Baggett, are with us today. And lastly, our special guest coming to us from the Culinary Institute of America, another special chef, Chef Michael Wille, is with us today. Chef.
Hey.
Hi.
Right on. I know we're excited to taste some delicious wines, but we do have some special causes that we're going to raise awareness with today, and we are asking for your help in raising some money for our community. Our vintner, Michelle Baggett, would like to say a few words about what we're doing to raise some money for Napa Valley Community Foundation. Michelle.
Hi, everyone. We're so grateful to all of you who have been reaching out to us and asking how you can help. 2017 fires, we had just an abundance of givers and giving in our Alpha Omega family who wanted to know how you could help. So we're going to be sending out an email. You should receive it tomorrow, which will explain exactly how you can help. There's 3 different ways that you can give. You can go directly to the Napa Valley Community Foundation. You can go on to our Alpha Omega website and donate through the Alpha Omega Foundation, our Friends of Alpha Omega fundraiser. And you can also participate in virtual tasting experiences. Any wines that you purchase through the virtual tasting experiences through the end of December, we're going to donate 25% of those proceeds from those wine sales, as well as 25% from the virtual tasting packages that you're purchasing. So we would love for you guys to support the Friends of the Alpha Omega Foundation. Look for your email, click on the links, it walks you right through it. If you go direct to the Napa Valley Community Foundation site, if you would please note on your dedication that you're Alpha Omega family, we'd really appreciate it. We want to try and beat our goal of 2017. We raised $100,000, and that was by virtue of having 2 events. So you bought a spot to 2 big bottle benefit barbecues the following year, following summer. We gave a check of $95,000 to the Napa Valley Community Foundation for the fire relief in 17. $5,000 check went to our Rutherford Volunteer Fire Department. We'd really like to meet these goals. We'd love to have a get together like we did in 2018 with a big bottle benefit, but we just don't know when we're all going to be able to gather again. So let's get this done by the end of the year. We have our next giving virtual tasting is coming up, Giving Thanks in November 14th, Barrett. And then December 12th, we're hosting not our toy drive because we can't touch and give toys right now. So we're going to continue with our holiday giving on December 12th. And we're just asking that you write a check, help donate, help all of these victims of the fire. It's a lot of friends, a lot of people that are very close to us who've lost everything. And we need your support. And we thank you so much to all of those that have supported in the past. And it's the season of giving. Let's give.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Robin. Your inspiration to support our community has been unbelievable. And thank you all for joining us. I mean, your participation in this virtual experience is already going towards the Napa Valley Community Foundation to support fire relief. And again, any additional wines that you purchase at the end of our virtual tasting today, 25% of the proceeds will be donated to support our community. Alpha Omega is all about family. Napa Valley is all about family. And all of our members and everyone joining here today, you're part of the family as well. So thank you. Before we get rocking and rolling, we got to go check out what Chef has got going on today. Chef, what do we got going on today, man? I'm excited.
We're coming over. So we've got the grill going. We've got a couple things that we prepared the night before. But I'm doing the finishing touches and getting everything ready to go for today. So right now what I'm doing is I'm roasting some peppers off, and we'll use that for cooking our verdolagas, which is going to be one of the sides for our dishes. What we're doing is we're doing a Yucatan pork dish. We're doing a butternut squash pudding, and we're going to do a verdolagas vegetable that's going to go with it. So I'm finishing up the finishing touches on the verdolagas right now. I've got my Yucatan pork right here that I've roasted already this morning and had that roasted off this morning. You can see in here with the banana leaf, we've got it wrapped in here. All the spices that we've used. We decided to, in our tasting, we wanted to go with something that was going to be a little bit different than going with just beef to go with the Cabernet. So we chose a pork shoulder or a pork butt. Which comes from the shoulder of the pig. It's nice and fatty, and that will help cut some of the tannins in there. And then because it's such a complex wine, what we've done is rub the pork with a lot of seasonings such as achiote and some cumin, and we've got some Mexican oregano on there, salt and pepper, of course, and that's going to help to mirror the complexity of the wine that we're going to be tasting it with today. We wanted to be seasonal as well, so we did a butternut squash pudding that we made here. This also was baked off earlier today, and so I'm just keeping this warm on the grill right here. This is a nice custardy pudding with the butternut squash in there and the zucchini.
Wow. Wow, I'm getting all the smells right now. This is going to be trouble. Thank you, Chef. This sounds absolutely amazing. Can't wait to see the final product. And we hope you all are following along. We will send the recipe out to you all as well in case you want to prepare the dish with us. Now, we're ready to rock with our first wine, but if you've been at our virtual tastings before, you know we like to do trivia. Robin is always in the giving spirit, and we're going to do more trivia today. Robin's got some harvest-related trivia questions. Winner is going to get a bottle of the 2017 Stagecoach Cabernet Sauvignon Single Vineyard Cab.
Wow. Game
on. Phenomenal. Reply your answers in the chat box, my friends. Get ready. Robin, trivia question number 1. Let's go.
Okay, well, Barrett and I were talking this morning, what should our subject be? So we decided that since this was our last day of harvest, well, we harvest related. And the first question is going to relate to the beginning of harvest. During the beginning of harvest, certain grapes are brought in, usually in August and September, much more than grapes are brought in here at Alpha Omega. The question for you all, what type of wine is made from these grapes?
There it is. What type of wine is made from these grapes? Not necessarily the grape variety, right, boss?
No, not
it's the type of wine. So we're getting a lot, okay, we're getting a lot of grape varieties, but what style of wine, to clarify, is made from the first harvested grapes, really in any region, typically, right?
I'll defer to Bob on that. Is that correct, Bob? Yes.
Yeah, we've got a master sommelier over here. I believe we actually have the correct answer. And we might as well just announce it right away. The answer is what, boss?
Sparkling wine.
Sparkling wine. There we go. And I think I see Elizabeth Peterson here who hit that first. Yeah. Elizabeth Peterson. Boom. That's a 2017.
Hey, maybe just real quick, if you, Barrett, if we could just ask our master somm, why is that?
Well, it's interesting when you talk about sparkling wine. Really, the balance of that wine is fueled by the acidity, the high acid. So these early pick grapes are higher in acid, and it really creates a very balanced type of wine, because this is in many cases regions of the world where sparkling wine happened, like Champagne, was simply they were cooler regions. So the style of this was grapes that simply didn't get that ripe, and that's really the beauty of it. So that, combined with, of course, the yeast that you have from the aging of this sparkling wine, creates a wonderful balance. And that's why these sparkling wines will age so well, is that naturally high acidity from being early pick grapes.
Great question, boss. And I gotta say, Elizabeth, you barely beat out Lindau and Mandy Bollinger on that. You all answered right there. It's like the Jeopardy pin. You gotta hit it quick. Elizabeth, congrats. Guys, don't worry. We have more trivia questions coming up with more prizes. Love it. Great question. And, you know, I'm getting parched. We've got two beautiful reds from our 2018 release, a vintage that we've been so excited to drink and discuss here at Alpha Omega, a stunning vintage. Let's start off with our Malbec 2018. And we've got Master Sommelier Bob Bath, winemaker Henrik Poulsen. Let's dive right into it, guys.
Well, Henrik, if you don't mind, I'll go first. And when we talk about a great vintage, I think a lot of people wonder, what is a great vintage? What should I smell? What should I taste? What will tell me that this is a great vintage? And I think when you think back in time in the Napa Valley, if you go back to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, when you look at the classic vintages, 1974, 1978, 1985, 1991, 1994, 1997, they were warmer years. And that's really, I think they were riper wines then. Stylistically, we didn't have as many warm years. It seems now when we're in the 2000s, we're having more warmer years. And so when we look at a year like 2018, we like it actually because it was a little bit cooler. When you look at this vintage, there really were no days over 100 degrees. We had the right amount of rain kind of early in the year in February, but it's that balanced year. It's those years where it doesn't get too hot too often and really stays moderate. This is really where grapes glide to maturity. They don't get rushed to maturity. And I think it's that long, moderate growing season that results in great wines. What do you think, Henrik?
No, I would agree. I mean, it's what describes a good vintage. It's difficult to pinpoint. I think for me, the key word is always balance. So in 2018, we had a fairly mild growing season. No heat spikes, no really heat waves or so. I think just the overall balance in the growing season really made what these wines are all about. And I tutored the 2018 vintage early on as probably one of the best, if not the best, from Napa ever. I've only made 21 vintages in Napa, so my knowledge of vintages prior to 2000 that goes from tasting only. But to me, there's something unique about 18. Again, I went on record early of saying this is a fabulous vintage. I think I can honestly say that the more and more I taste of these wines, the more and more impressed I get. Just sniffing this Malbec, it has everything you want from a winemaking perspective. You have concentration, you have different aromatics in the wines, you have density, you have layers, you have everything that is what craves a good vintage. So I'm super happy with how they are turning out and how they are developing as well.
I think one of the keywords you mentioned is concentration. When you talk about concentration, you're talking about grapes that are balanced. They have that kind of ideal growing condition. And I think when you look at both these wines today, you're really going to smell just wonderful fruit concentration in this. And I think that's really, to me, one of the signs is that there's so much fruit in this vintage that it's going to hold for a long period of time. This is a vintage that's going to age magnificently. And I think what you want to do, particularly with these 18s, is really get them open ahead of time. Let them open up in a decanter, in a glass for an hour or so, and you really start to see this. But these are wines that are showing great now. And so the toughest thing is going to be not drinking them early on, but you will be rewarded. These are wines that I think are going to age a long time. And that's what I'm excited about this, is that really have the best of both worlds. But definitely, when you look at these two wines, I think you're thinking about something that that really has perhaps 20, 30 years easily in terms of aging.
I couldn't agree more. These are magnificent wines. And I think you touch on a very important part as well, that these wines are actually early accessible, but they also have the longevity to really stand the test of time. And I think a little bit of the secret in general in winemaking from Alpha Omega is that we use a lot of barrel fermentation. So I think most of you wine club members out there, you are familiar with the style of our wines. For those who maybe not are so tuned into the winemaking details, most of the wines produced in the world is actually never fermented in a barrel. They are aged in barrels, but they're not fermented in that barrel. And I think that's a key to the style and understanding the uniqueness of Alpha Omega's wines. We go that extra mile. We do, it's a super labor intensive process, but we feel that the quality definitely shows in the wines. So you get an early accessible wine, but without losing balance in the wine, you actually also add to the ageability of the wine. And I was recently asked, why do we do it, or what is the uniqueness of barrel fermentation? And I think the best answer I can give you is that once you do a barrel fermentation, you basically have all the ingredients in the mixing bowl from the first day. So compare that to, say, if we ferment in a stainless steel tank. That gives you a fermentation style, but then after that you have to adapt your barrel aging to the wine. So you're kind of fermenting a little bit in the blind versus barrel fermentation where everything is there from the first day. And I think that is the key element of understanding barrel fermentation. We have the luxury here at Alpha Omega to actually go excessive on it. So last year, the 2019 vintage, we had close to 500 barrels used for barrel fermentation. This year, 2020, we're dialing it back a little bit for natural reasons. We want to adapt the vintage to the style, to the growing season. So there's many key elements that goes into understanding barrel fermentation. But most of my colleagues out there does not have that luxury, and I feel super privileged.
Well, and well said. And again, back to what you said, Bob, drinkability young, ability to lay down in the cellar. That's the ultimate dream, in my opinion, for a lot of wines coming out of Napa Valley. Henrik, the open barrel fermentation process, tedious, laborious, but when you smell and taste a wine like this, absolutely worth it. Amanda's saying the no, she's getting a bit of plum, definitely some darker fruits in there, and there's a little bit of kind of an earthy forest floor component in this wine, but really nice fruit, a little bit of an earthiness, a little bit of a spice. 2018s are showing incredibly well right now. And, you know, I know a lot of you that are joining us today are members of our club. If you're not, you should certainly join. But this is one of those club wines that we don't really make a lot of. This goes very quickly. So certainly get your hands on some of this while you can. Henrik, real quick, winemaking process on this specifically. How long are we letting this sit in oak before we bottle?
So the Malbec 2018 was aged 18 months in French oak barrels. I think the key ingredients, one of the main secrets behind this wine is that it's not just sourced from one vineyard. So we have the luxury of sourcing from many of the 16 different sub-appellations of Napa Valley. And the components for this specific vintage is actually deriving from 4 different regions of Napa. So we're hillside, we're mountains, we're valley floor, and that gives us a uniqueness in the wine. So when I think of varietals or clones, I'm kind of like a chef in a kitchen with a nod to our chef Brian today. Pepper for me is not necessarily just black pepper. Black or pepper can be white pepper. It can be pink peppers, even green peppercorns. So a lot of different peppers. But most people will say, oh, that's just pepper. For me, clones and different appellations of Napa is the secret or the mystery to understanding wine. And with sourcing from 4 different sub-appellations for Malbec alone, that gives us a wide spectrum of different ingredients. So when we put together this blend, it's not just from one side and not just from one clone. It's a multiple mix of different expressions of one grape.
Love it, love it. And then kind of tying in another question here, tying in the winemaking process, Bob, you know, we've talked about it, the 2018 vintage. Got a question on here of, you know, given that balance is a primary factor in winemaking, how do you achieve that kind of balance in a specific vintage, a specific year, amidst some different climate changes?
Well, I think part of it is the barrel fermentation process that Henrik was talking about, because that barrel fermentation, I think the first thing you think is that, oh, the wine's going to be oakier, or it's going to taste more tannic, in other words, more bitter from being in that oak barrel. It's actually kind of the opposite. It's that integration of really early on of the wine in that barrel that actually creates a wine that actually is less tannic or tastes less tannic. It certainly has a structure to age. And I think that's a really important part in terms of really creating a wine that's balanced and will age for a long period of time. And I think it's interesting with Malbec too. When you talk about the Malbec grape, it's a grape that quite frankly doesn't get to be in a starring role very often. There's only about 3,500 acres of grapes here in California, about 500 here in the Napa Valley. So this is really a chance for Malbec to kind of shine. I think most of the time we think of Malbec in association with Argentina, where it's a primary planted grape. But here, particularly in the southern part of the valley, where we've got most of these vineyards that we're sourcing from, we really get Malbec that reaches a ripeness, and I think that's something important to note, because in places like Bordeaux, we're really going to see it probably 5-10% of a blend. It seldom is kind of in the lead role. Here, it gets ripe enough. It really has, for me, a lot of characteristics like Cabernet Sauvignon. So it has that dark fruit. It has that wonderful structure. And for me, it's just a great alternative, but maybe a little bit more blue fruit, maybe a little bit more florals, maybe a little bit of that earthiness content of this wine, to me, comes out in Malbec.
Love it, love it. This is certainly one of those wines where you stock up on and you're happy that you did, because it will lay down nice in the cellar. But again, accessible early is absolutely key. I'm getting a nice, cool, you know, mist here from our fountains. We've got a rainbow right behind us. This is the place to be right now. The Malbec 2018, absolutely delicious. Kimberly's got a really interesting food pairing that we got to bring up. Pairing well with truffle potato chips and Madagascar chocolate.
Oh, wow. What do you think about that?
Henrik.
No, I just wanted to toss in there. I think for me, Malbec has been a little bit of an overlooked varietal in Napa. And I think that's a shame. Insider secret, I think it has been shared with many of you guys before, but actually our 2017 flagship wine Era contained, I think it was 4% of Malbec. That wine was recently chosen out of, I believe, 16,000 as one of 3 American wines only to be fitted the 50 best wines in the world by a wine magazine called Decanter. So I think
Era 2017.
there you go. Malbec is on the front scene now and on the podium, and it really deserves all the credit it can get.
Oh, that's great.
Love it. Yeah. Congrats to you and your team, Henrik, on that 2017 Era. Absolutely phenomenal. Real quick, before we go check on to see what Chef's doing, aging regimen for the Malbec. I mean, accessible now, of course, but where do we see this going in the future if you put it in the cellar? How long do you think this is going to last?
So I think for me, again, the beauty of this wine is that it can be enjoyed early on, but it can definitely also be laid in the back of your cellar. So for me, I think some of the joyful charm of this wine is actually enjoying it on the earlier side. It is a super fruity varietal to work with, so I would probably start drinking it now, but buy a couple of extra bottles, stick them in the back of your cellar, try popping one in 5 years and maybe another one in 10 years, and you'll probably be kicking yourself and saying, I should have bought 2 extra bottles.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, delicious wine. Stock up on this, my friends. We don't make a lot of this. And again, this is kind of a club wine that goes out to our club members. And if we have any left, we bring it back here into the tasting room, but one that goes very quickly. Bob, I mean, all these smells I'm getting. We need to check on Chef, see what's going on with Chef here.
Hi, thanks for checking in. I just got my pork off, and I'm going to pass the sauce here. You can see the liquid that you're gonna cook your pork in is gonna yield a nice sauce for you here. And I'm just gonna let this reduce down on the grill a little bit, and that's gonna have all the flavor from the banana leaves that we wrap that in, the achiote, the stock that we use to prepare this, and we're gonna reduce that down a little bit and use that as the dipping sauce or the gravy for our pork shoulder when we have that ready to go.
Awesome.
So along with that, again, I'm finishing up here on my my other mise en place that I have to do. I've got my pepper roasted off. I have my verdolagas here on the table. These are a ground cover crop that's usually grown in a lot of farms, usually considered a weed, but really a delicious product that you have here. Has a nice juicy flavor to it. I'm just gonna pan sear these off. I'm gonna go ahead and peel my pepper, and then I'm going to take the seeds out, dice it up, and we're gonna saute this with some garlic and some tomato and a little bit of the roasted poblano pepper.
Wow. Wow. And, you know, Bob and Chef, I mean, still kind of enjoying how this Malbec is still kind of on my palate. How is this Malbec, Bob, just a great pairing for what Chef's putting together right now?
Well, when we were talking about the pairing, we really we're really trying to find a dish that would go with both wines. And I think there's a lot of structural similarities in these two wines and a lot of, like I said, dark fruit, but there's a lot of complexity. And as Chef Michael mentioned, we really trying to build complexity, particularly through that paste that we put on the outside that it roasted in for several hours. And that really brought a lot of flavor to that kind of fatty pork shoulder that you had already. But we love the theme. This is National Hispanic Heritage Month. We really wanted a little bit of that kind of Hispanic feel to this. And that's where I think you get these other flavors. But even with the verdolagas, we have a little bit of that herbal characteristic for the verdolagas and the tomatoes that really kind of, for me, play off some of the herbal characteristics and a little bit of the red fruits that you have in both these wines. So I really think it's going to work wonderfully with both of this. When we talk about those complexities, a little bit like the pepper that Henrik was talking about, that's kind of the complexities that we find in this dish. And plus with the butternut squash pudding, you got something that just has this wonderful, rich texture, which this wine will have even after it breathes for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on with this wine, and both of these wines just have a ton of depth to them. Looking forward to really kind of enjoying them throughout the tasting, because there's this, every time I smell and taste, I get more and more out of the Malbec. You know, Kimberly's says she cooks pork shoulder often. Looking forward to this recipe. Stacy is still talking about the 2017 era. You know, I mean, phenomenal wine, top 50 decanter, best in show. 3 wines. Highest score, 3 wines in this region. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. 2018 Malbec, my friends, get it while you can. Can't wait for this dish to be ready. But, you know, the 18 vintage, we've been talking about it for a few months now and how spectacular the vintage is. We're celebrating today the end of our 2020 vintage, my friends, which Henrik, this morning, huh? Congratulations.
Thank you.
2020. Guys, we still had an incredible vintage in 2020, despite everything that's happened here in our region. And we've got to talk about that for a little bit. Bob, Henrik, let's talk about the 2020 harvest, the vintage itself, and what we've been doing here at Alpha Omega.
Sure. I think it's important to state that 2020 vintage, it's definitely going to be a talk about vintage generally from Napa. We've seen devastation from the fires, but I think to give you my honest opinion, the benefits or the privilege that we have here at Alpha Omega is, again, we're sourcing from so many different sub-appellations of Napa. So when we have the August fires, the Hennessy fire, we unfortunately lost 2 single vineyards up on the Atlas Peak AVA. That we can cover easily with other regions in Napa. So I'm not concerned about 2020 from Alpha Omega perspective. I'm, of course, my thoughts goes out to the many other vintners and friends out there that have lost so much. But for Alpha Omega, I can honestly say, do not worry. We will have spectacular wines coming out of the 20 vintage.
I couldn't agree more, Henrik, too, is that I think a lot of people will think about the end of this vintage. I think you need to think about the beginning of the vintage. Actually, the beginning of the year was absolutely wonderful. We really ripeness in these wines. A lot of grapes were picked before these fires that happened just recently. So really it didn't ruin everything. And of course it was just tragic. I mean, there's 11 wineries, as a matter of fact, that were either partially or totally destroyed by this fire, which is again, just tragic. But on the other hand, with the different vineyards that we have scattered throughout the valley, not every vineyard, not the whole valley was affected by this. So it's really certain areas that are going to be affected. But in general, I see some really great wines coming out of this vintage.
I agree. Early on, it was a vintage that was marked by very high temperatures. So a warmer vintage than we've seen, say, the last 3 years. But that also brought us into an earlier harvest pattern. So we actually started this vintage 3 weeks earlier than we did with 19. And I think that gives us a longer window for harvesting, and that is always the key element for a winemaker, or the desire for a winemaker, that we can actually let the fruit hang as long as possible to get this phenolic ripeness into the grapes. So for me, I think there's going to be stunning wines coming out of 20. I think unfortunately it's going to be tainted a little bit by the fire, but rest assured that there's going to be stunning wines coming out of Napa from the 20 vintage, and I can't wait to share them with you as we taste through fermentations. And just bringing in the last grapes this morning, I have high hopes, and my smile has never been bigger than it was this morning. So good stuff in the pipeline, trust me.
Well, maybe I could add something to that. I just got some news yesterday. As some of you know, I'm chair of the Napa Valley Vintners, and we have 550 members. A survey was done to see how everybody was doing, and over 80% reported back that they're going to be making wine in 2020, and they're have a real positive outlook on that. So, you know, if you read that there's going to be a lost vintage, that's fake news. It's not going to be a lost vintage at all.
Yeah, I mean, and some of the whites, Henrik, that we got in early, you know, the reds we're still kind of processing. The early indication on the whites, absolutely delicious. Our Chardonnay in 2020 is going to be fantastic.
So I think I went on record early on in regards to the white wines. I said it's probably going to be the best vintage ever for Alpha Omega white wines. So both our Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay, stunning quality. And I think that's it's important to understand that, yes, you are affected by smoke and by fires over here, but we will never, ever put our names on something that is not up to standards. So you will never taste a wine from Alpha Omega that has even a hint of smoke taint or loss of quality. So our vintage in general may be a little bit smaller because we are going to be declassifying and raising the bar even higher in 20 than we've done in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. You know, and Robin, that's a great point. Napa Valley Vintners. Robin we're so lucky that Robin is actually the board chair of Napa Valley Vintners. That's a great place to get good factual information on a particular harvest, is it not, Robin?
Oh, it is. I mean, and they're very, very active in this regard. And of course, you know, you get some people writing news, and a lot with fires. We found in the 17 fires, you gotta wait and see, because there's a lot of false reports. I mean, I would say half the media reports were wrong initially in 17, and they've been wrong again on this 2020. Now there is devastation, but we're still learning. Some of the roads here are still closed, and how they can report that this or that or the other thing, they can't even get into some areas right now. So patience. And but you know, it is sad that a lot of our friends and fellow vintners were affected. There's no question there. There has been some significant impact to some of our friends and vintners, and hopefully, and going back to what Michelle said, and also some of our residents, and hopefully you can help and join us and beat our record that we raised in 2017, over 100 grand to give to the community foundation.
Love it, love it. Very excited about 2020 vintage. And again, 25% of our proceeds from our virtual tastings, tasting packages, additional wines purchased through our tastings, we're going to donate to Napa Valley Community Foundation. So we appreciate all of your support during this time for our community. Now, we've got 2020 harvest that we've just finished. Some of the last grapes I just saw came in into the winemaking facility here. We want to take you all directly on site at one of our vineyards for the 2020 harvest. We've got a video here that we want to show you, showcasing Thomas Vineyard harvest for 2020. Let's check it out.
Since you can't be here in person, we want to share a video of our 2020 harvest in action. These scenes are from the early hours of September 23rd from our Thomas Vineyard in Rutherford on the slopes of the Mayacamas Range, just a few miles from the winery. Using their headlamps for guidance, our crew picked almost 10 tons of our very finest Cabernet Sauvignon. Picking these grapes is very hard work under some tough conditions. This is a very steep vineyard, so steep that you cannot even go up and down it in a normal tractor. Each tub of grapes weighs almost 40 pounds and will be stacked at the end of each row and quickly transported to the winery to preserve their freshness. After the grapes arrive at the winery, the bunches of grapes are weighed and then transferred by conveyor to our destemmer, which separates the berries from the stems. From the destemmer, the berries go onto an optical sorting table, where a camera will take a photo of every single berry. That crackling sound you hear is actually a jet air nozzle that's rejecting berries that don't meet our strict standards. The berries are then transferred to individual barrels where they're covered with dry ice at minus 110 degrees Fahrenheit to protect the must. We are quite famous for our barrel fermentation program. Think of each of these barrels as their individual fermentation vessel. This is a very labor-intensive and costly process, but it shows in the quality of our finished wines. After fermentation, the wines will be aged in French oak barrels for almost 2 years before they are blended, bottled, and shared with you.
Love it. That was awesome. Thank you. And Bob Bath, Master Sommelier, appreciate the commentary there. Now, got a couple of questions during that video there. One very important question from Leanna, and I love this because I remember when I first started getting the wine, I was wondering why, Henrik, why is the crew harvesting in the middle of the night when it's dark outside?
It's a little bit of a multiple answer. Basically, it's to get the grapes in as cool as possible. So by cooling them down, it's going to be easier to get them through what we call a cold soak. So once you bring in grapes, you normally put them into barrels or tanks and let them stay under very cold temperatures for a couple of days. You then extract a lot of the skin or the color from the skins. And if we bring them in during the day, they'll be way too warm, and there's a chance of spontaneous fermentation will actually kick in. So the main answer would be due to temperature. But what temperature also does to a grape is it retains its natural acidity, and that is what we're also looking for. So it's a little bit of both, but and then of course the obvious reason, it's better to harvest and run up hillside vineyards when it's 60 degrees during the night instead of 110 during the day. So
absolutely. And thank you, Henrik. Great question there. And I got to say, we're looking right at the Thomas Vineyard here from where we are. You can see it from the back terrace at Alpha Omega. It's in the Rutherford Hills, small vineyard. And Robin, you and I talked about before, that might be one of the best vineyards in Rutherford, maybe in Napa Valley, huh?
That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
The Rutherford, the Thomas Vineyard in Rutherford, the single vineyard Cabernet, my friends. The 18 is available at futures price right now. It's absolutely stunning, and we're thrilled to be able to give you a little video of how we harvest the Thomas Vineyard here at Alpha Omega.
Well, the other thing on Thomas that's really encouraging, because we just went over this with Henrik the other day, the whole harvest from Thomas looks like it was unaffected by smoke at all. So for our most treasured vineyard, hallelujah.
Exactly. Couple, kind of going back to some of the last comments with the Malbec, we've got some some people putting together some incredible dishes. Some people are following along with the chef's recipe. And so if you are putting together that amazing Yucatan pork, please post pictures, videos, anything on social media, tag Alpha Omega, and we'd love to share it and check out what you've done. But Bill Walter is going to make lamb meatballs to go with his Malbec and roasted eggplant, pepper, and onion dip.
Ooh.
Wow, Bill, toast to that. Send us some pictures of that. I'm salivating over that right now. And just a quick question for Chef. Chef, we've got Paul on here that's asking if there's a substitute for the heavy cream in the pudding if you're lactose intolerant.
For the heavy cream in the pudding, that would be a pretty tough substitute on that one. I would probably just go ahead and saute those ingredients and then add it that way, because the cream, we designed the cream in the pudding to help to cut some of that fattiness, to help cut some of the tannins as well. But I would simply go ahead with your butternut squash, roast it off that way, and serve the roasted butternut squash that way. If you roast those squash whole, season them with the same seasonings, and then roast them whole when you put them into the oven, you pull those out, and that'll have a nice creamy texture to it as well. So you'll be fine with that.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Chef. Appreciate that. Now, I know a lot of you have already started tasting your 2018 Cabernet. You've jumped the gun, but that's totally fine. You're in your comfort of your own home. You can do whatever you want. But before we dive into it, I think we have another trivia question, boss.
Oh, good. We do. But before, I want to just say to you, Henrik, when I heard we're tasting Malbec, I had a little bit of, it's never been one of my favorites, but I will say, this is one of the best I've ever had in my life. It is just simply outstanding, and kudos to you all. But here we go. So the next harvest related. Now, when Henrik tries to make the decision of when to pick the grapes, he goes out and he measures, one thing he measures is sugar content. What is the term used for that measurement?
What is the term used
for that measurement of sugar content?
Oh, wow. It got hit early. It got hit early once again. And, you know, this came in quick. But our winner for this, first answer right away, Mandy Bollinger. Mandy, that's a 2017 Stagecoach Cabernet Sauvignon single vineyard. The answer, of course,
Brix.
Brix.
Did she spell it correctly?
She spelled it correctly.
Okay, she wins. She's B-R-I-X. It's like the restaurant right down the road here.
She spelled it correctly, just like the restaurant right down the road. Brix is the correct answer. Mandy, congratulations. A lot of you got that real quick, but Mandy was quickest to the draw there. Don't worry, I think we might have one more trivia question left. I mean, the 2017 Stagecoach Cabernet Sauvignon, one of my favorites. Congrats, Mandy. Let's keep it going, my friends. Very, very excited for our signature Cabernet Sauvignon, the 2018 vintage, our 2017, absolutely incredible. And this highly touted 18 vintage, I can't wait to taste. Henrik, Bob, let's do the 2018 Cabernet Sauvignon.
So if I may, Bob, just to tie it back to Robin's comments, I do go out in the vineyards and I do measure for Brix or sugar. That is, however, not how we determine picking decisions at Alpha Omega. So everything is done by taste. I do look at lab numbers, but it doesn't influence my decisions to pick a vineyard or a block. And a good example is actually the 2020 vintage on hand. So what Brix correlates to is the amount of sugar in the grapes. But there's a lot of different types of sugars in grapes, and the two primary ones are glucose and fructose. Those can be turned into alcohol or fermented into alcohol. But there's a lot of other different amounts of sugars that cannot be turned into or are not fermentable, as we say. So this vintage in particular, the 2020, we've actually seen fairly low numbers of Brix, but we have seen high amount of sugars in the grapes. And this is, again, one good example of why I always advocate and I say winemaking should be done in the vineyards and it should be done by near the tank or barrel. Tons of colleagues out there, not to bash friends, but I think there's a lot of winemaking done from behind a computer in an office, and you apply this recipe that worked for you the year before or even the year before. And I think in truly understanding a vintage and a growing season on hand, you have to go out, you have to taste the grapes, and you have to make up your own opinion on that vintage. So that was a little bit of tie back to the bricks question, and of course congratulations to Mandy. That's a nice bottle of wine coming your way. So on the Cab 18, I think as I smell it and taste it today, now this has been sitting in these beautiful Riedel glasses and has had a chance to open up. And I find myself really drawn into this wine. It is showing so much on the nose. It's showing density. It's showing layers on the palate. I couldn't be happier with this vintage overall. So
Amazing.
Henrik, I think when we talk about winemaking too, and we talk about bricks, I think we become better winemakers in the Napa Valley or in California in general. And I think part of it is exactly what you're saying, is that winemakers are not just in the winery. They're out in the vineyards themselves. They're tasting these grapes, and they know what they're working with when those grapes finally come in. 30 or 40 years ago, bricks was really the only thing that they looked for. It's like we get to 24 bricks and we're okay. That isn't the decision anymore now. It's just part of that decision. So some of those non-fermentable sugars, those flavors, are actually a result of letting those grapes get to the right level of bricks, but also developing flavors, which don't necessarily go at the same speed within each grape. So tasting those grapes, and I think that's what you find into 2018 vintage, is really everything is there flavor-wise. Yeah, the bricks is there, but the flavors are something that are crucial. And it's that concentration of flavor to me that you find. Let's face it, I've said this before, Cabernet Sauvignon, this is the best place in the world for Cabernet Sauvignon. When you have a vintage like this, it kind of demonstrates why. And plus, this is primarily Cabernet Sauvignon. There's a little bit of Cabernet Franc, a little bit of Merlot, a little bit of Petit Verdot. But you know what? Cabernet Sauvignon in a vintage like this doesn't really need any supporting actors. It is really stealing the stage.
And spot on, Bob. I think one of the secrets, again, to understanding the qualities in Alpha Omega's wines is actually we have the luxury of having our own farming team, so our own vineyard manager and 12 people hired to take care of the vineyards that we're farming. So at this point, we're farming over 82 acres where we are 100% in control of decisions out there. So if we want to say concentrate the intensity of the grapes, we drop a couple of clusters, then that's our decision. It's not a grower that we go out and pay per ton. So I think understanding that we have the luxury of having our own team in-house, so to say, and then of course I get my unfair share of credit for making these wines, but I'm supported by not only by the vineyard manager and his team, but also a wonderful team here at the winery. So an assistant winemaker, a cellar master, an associate winemaker. It's all teamwork, but I think that goes to explain how much energy and how much effort that goes into making these wines.
And I think you think about the end of harvest. In other words, we picked our last grapes today. That doesn't mean everything is over. We're actually, your job in a way is just starting, because you've got valley floor grapes, we've got hillside, we've got mountaintop grapes. Really, when you're looking at this, now we're watching the fermentations. Now we're going to be thinking about blending. We have these wonderful different pieces of a puzzle to put together. And I think this is where the real brilliance is that sure, we have complexity, but they don't necessarily all fit together in the same pattern every year. And that is what makes each vintage unique and different. And having all those different parts, particularly a year like this in 2020, was really going to be crucial, because you can look at each of these individually and say, is this going to work? Or actually do trial blends and find out that it doesn't work. And I think that's part of the beauty of winemaking, but that goes on for the next couple of years, doesn't it?
Spot on. And in the 18 vintage as a whole, we had, if memory serves, we had close to 800 different lots. It doesn't mean that we're sourcing from 800 different vineyards, but when we source from a vineyard and a different sub-appellations of Napa, we actually split that fermentation into different styles. Again, like a chef in the kitchen, we want ingredients on the shelf. And then when we get into the blending sessions, it's massive. So we dial it further in as we go through blending sessions. But a wine like this Cabernet Sauvignon in 18, I think we sat down probably close to 30 different blending sessions and slowly fine-tuned it until we came up with this final result. And I think again that goes to understand that it's not just one grape or one varietal or one vineyard. It's a factor of many different things. And again, I think credit goes out to the growers that we're working with, of course, our own vineyard management team, the colleagues that I have here at the winery. It's all the joint efforts, and hopefully it shows up in the wine. And again, I couldn't be more happy than with this 2018 vintage.
That's just a great point. I mean, Bob, and we've said this before, we're really utilizing the diversity of Napa Valley with Alpha Omega wines. And the 16 appellations here in Napa Valley of just, you've got hillside fruit, you've got valley floor fruit, you've got a lot of different soil compositions. The depth in Alpha Omega wines is really attributed to the diversity of where we're farming our fruit and sourcing fruit from, isn't it?
It really is. And I think each of these vineyards, whether you're on the valley floor, you're on a hillside, you're on a mountaintop, you've got really a grape that's in different conditions. It's going to give you different characteristics. And so that's where that complexity comes from. There's not a lot of places in the world, in other words, that have the type of topography that we have. In other words, we have so much in terms of soils. As far as soils go, we have 100 different types of soils here in the Napa Valley. There's other parts of the world that have maybe 2 or 3. So that complexity is not only the soils, but really the location of the grapes, whether again at sea level or literally at 2,500 feet.
Absolutely. Got some fun comments on here. You guys obviously are enjoying it. Brittany says it's delicious as usual. Trevor G says it's very nice. Kimberly said being a Saturday afternoon, she used her Coravin to open it first, but now she's like, no, I'm done. I'm thinking I'm just going to open the rest of the bottle. Lovely Cabernet Sauvignon. Kimberly, we're with you right there. This is a great comment. T. Clemens said, this Cabernet is so delicious, I may need a cigarette. T. Clemens, I feel you. But yeah, absolutely delicious. And, you know, Kevin and Peter are saying that this is up there with some of our single vineyards. I mean, Henrik, that's a major compliment right there. And I will say, Kevin and Peter, wait till you taste some of these 18 single vineyards. Point is, I think we've put together an incredible Cabernet Sauvignon for our 2018 cab here. Now, I'd like to go over to Robin and Michelle real quick. Robin, our number 2 trivia winner, Mandy, Cal Poly grad.
Well, that's why. You got Bob Bath, a graduate,
Cal Poly,
present company. We got to let. Yeah, they're pretty quick down there at Cal Poly.
Teach them right.
Yeah, learn by doing.
Love it. Mandy, Cal Poly grad, congrats. Quick on the draw. Michelle, would love to talk with you a little more about, you know, obviously fire relief and what we're doing in the community. Again, how can our guests here today and our members, how can they contribute and donate? Where do they need to go?
Well, so many of you have asked again this year, how can we help? How can we be a part of the Alpha Omega family and support the Napa Valley community? Well, we're putting together the family and friends of Alpha Omega through our Alpha Omega Foundation. You're going to get an email tomorrow. It will show you how you can contribute, how you can donate, so that we can beat our goal of 2017, $100,000. And that was through buying a spot for 2 events that Alpha Omega underwrote. And we give 100% of your seat price to the Napa Valley Community Foundation fire relief efforts. And we were so proud to be able to give $95,000 to the Napa Valley Community Foundation for the fire relief efforts in 2017. $5,000 went to our Rutherford Volunteer Fire Department. And all we do is ask that you donate. If you're eager to do it right now, just reach right out to our Corey, who sent you your virtual tasting confirmation. He's going to be managing those donations as they come in. And I'm thinking I'm going to talk my husband into, once we can all gather, since we can't do a big bottle benefit barbecue right now, but once we all gather, for those of you who are helping to support the Alpha Omega Foundation's fundraising efforts, we're going to throw a party. You're going to be our guest.
There you go.
Wow.
I like that idea. It's about time we get the barbecue.
He wants to barbecue.
I hosted a barbecue.
Well, and there's a lot of people that are asking, you know, what happened 2017. We barbecued. We fed 22,000 first responders
More than that.
with our barbecue.
35,000.
I get my numbers mixed up.
35.
So, Robin, what's happening since 2007, Operation Barbecue Relief?
Yeah, we partner with them, and we've helped them in a number of ways. Sometimes we loan them our equipment. We, or I should say, me, I have a barbecue fetish, and we have a lot of barbecue equipment, and we loaned them all our equipment and some of our staff to cook for the fires, the butte fires. And then this year was a little difficult because of all the COVID problems, and we really don't even have a barbecue staff team right now. So, you know, the phone didn't ring. It's interesting. It was kind of sad. You know, we're standing ready, willy-nilly, but we'll help any way we can. The regulations didn't allow Operation Barbecue Relief to come out here, and we couldn't partner with them. So it was kind of sad because I heard some of these firefighters went without nutrition
72 hours.
A long period of time.
Guys without food.
The bottom line here, and we need to talk to, this is my buddy, Bill Dodd, our state senator. We've talked about this before. We got to find a better way to take care of these people during these crises. And government's got to come in and do it. And, you know, they can't keep us away from it because that's really sad.
In
but anyway.
2017, fire groups from Arizona that came in to support said they have never been better fed in fires than they were in 2017. And so in 18, we did the Butte County Paradise fires. We again ran into a situation where we couldn't get access to the front lines for our volunteers to drive food up. So we fed 5,000 evacuees. And in 2019, in the Sonoma fire, we, Operation Barbecue Relief, reached out, and we have 2 huge commercial barbecue pieces of equipment that's Old Hickory. And we sent those over, but then now they have restrictions where you can't have charcoal or wood. Thank goodness those are powered electrical. So we're just trying to figure out a way where we can help in any disaster situation, whether it's the hurricanes where OBR is helping on the East Coast, tornadoes, hurricanes. We have fire here, guys, and we need to fire up these barbecues and feed our first responders that are out there on the front lines. They need to be fed. It's tough work, man. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, well said.
But I didn't know Michelle was going to spring this on me, but I'm all in. As soon as we can have a large party, large gathering, anybody that donates going to be invited. We'll have a big old barbecue here to celebrate.
And I tell you, it doesn't get better than Baggett Barbecue. I don't know if any of you joined us for our Baggett Barbecue virtual tasting that we had early in the year. That was a game changer. We brought out everything. We had multiple barbecue pits. Robin was up at 5 in the morning here at Alpha Omega, first one on site, barbecuing.
He misses those days.
Love it, love it.
If I may throw in that it just came up because it was on my calendar. So during these winter or harvest, we normally have harvest parties for our wine club members. So whether you're joining us live today or looking at this in a couple of weeks, we missed you. Those parties for wine club members where we actually actively invite you to join us, whether it's for a pump over or punch down or looking at our lab or seeing how we assemble and disassembly at their own. Those were sorely missed this year. So I can't wait to get back to normal and cheers with you guys in person.
And Henrik, also to thank your staff and your team, our vineyard management team and our cellar crew during harvest. We always have a big harvest barbecue for them, their spouses, their partners, their children. We have a big family event here, and that's really sad. That's very sorely missed because they work really, really hard. And we're so grateful for you and all your team in the vineyard on the crush pad processing this fruit. That's so amazing that we get the honor to taste every vintage. And I'm so grateful. Thank you.
You know, in these times, it's hard to say thank you.
Exactly.
They're not giving us the opportunity to say thank you, but thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it really is all because of a lot of the people that are on here right now. And if you know Alpha Omega, you know we like to have a good time. We like to party. You know, that's the beauty of wine, the beauty of Alpha Omega. The events that we host here are legendary. But, you know, with what's going on in our world right now, we're going to continue to do these virtual tastings. We're going to do them for the foreseeable future. I mean, our Giving Thanks virtual tasting on November 14th. Really excited about that. We'll talk about that a little more at the end of our tasting today. But again, we're going to continue to be virtual with you guys and offer some incredible virtual experiences, whether it's private or corporate or our group virtual tasting each month. So people look out for those. I've got smells, Chef. I've got smells. Let's go over to Chef and look at what we got plated over here.
All right, so I've got my verdolagas on the plate. I've got my pudding down, and now I'm going to go ahead and slice this delicious shoulder of pork. You could take a look at all the spices that are on there from the rub that we talked about. The pork is nice and jiggly, so it's ready. You could either go ahead and slice this or pull it apart. It should be nice and tender, though, when you're going into it. You can see here it's almost falling apart, but barely staying together in between the seams. And we're going to go ahead and slice this up. You can tell how moist it is inside with all the juice coming out of it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add our pork to the plate here. Just a couple of nice slices on each plate. Once you have that down, you're going to go ahead and you're going to add your sauce, your dipping sauce here. Remember, we pulled this from the braising liquid and we've reduced this down. And this will go right over the top. I chose to use bowls for this. I think it's good to have, because it's a thinner sauce, to have a nice amount of juice in here. And these flavors will pair really nicely with the wines that were recommended with these. The seasoning profile that's on there. Because we've got all those nice juices in there, we'll go ahead and we'll hit this with a side of tortillas that will go onto here. So 2 tortillas that were warmed up on the grill. And then lastly, in the recipe, you'll see there's a recipe for the pickled red onions, and you want to put just a little bit of the pickled red onion on top. That will help cut some of the fat in the meat. Don't do too much because the acid will compete with the acid in the wine, but just a little bit to cut with some of the fat in the meat and to serve as a garnish. And voila, we have our plate right there. So there you have it. Yucatan pork, butternut squash pudding, verdolagas.
Wow. Hey, Chef, yeah, we got salivating over here. Hey, Chef, we've got a question from a guest on here. Are you on Instagram or Facebook? People want to tag your recipe, tag you, and communicate with you.
I very much appreciate that. I am a non-modern Facebook Twitter user.
Right on. Well, it's exclusive right here then.
Yeah, it's exclusive right here. They can find it right here and tag it here.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely stunning. And I know a lot of you have participated in this recipe. Again, we'd love to see pictures, post them. Chef, I've got a lot of people on here that are like, how do I hire this guy? Where do I go? What do I need to do? If you guys want to get in contact with Chef, reach out to us and we'll try to connect you all. Paul's asking if we can ship the food to DC.
I think we can work on trying to pack that up.
Love it. And you know, Master Sommelier Bob Bath, to kind of go back to both of these wines in our food pairing, in the Cabernet Sauvignon 2018, both of these reds delicious with this pairing. Why is that?
Well, again, you saw the rub, the paste on the outside of this pork, and that's where we had that complexity. And the verdolagas that had a little that herbal component, and really just the richness, the fattiness of that pork shoulder, to me, is really why this works so well together. But these wines have such great balance. And I think at the end of the day, of course, these wines will go great with steaks, but we really wanted to come up with something that was more seasonal, something that was more perhaps themed in terms of the time of the year. And that's really when you have great balanced wines like this, they're going to go with a lot of dishes. So that's what I love about it, is that when the winemaker has done his job, as far as a chef goes, they can come up with a lot of things that are just going to work pretty darn good together.
Love it. Well, you know, I'm kind of hoping I can get in on some of that over there. I might have to just sneak over there after this virtual tasting. But exactly correct, Bob. Just 2 great wines for this type of pairing. And, you know, before we close, we hope you guys enjoyed these 2 wines in this food demonstration. I'm glad that a lot of you participated. Again, please post pictures, send videos, tag us on social media. We'd love to see what you put together. But didn't we promise one more trivia question, boss? I think we promised one more.
We got one more.
This one's going to be quick. This is quick off the draw here.
I know, but Barrett, I'm starting to feel like Alex Trebek, and get your buzzers ready. And this is my most favorite one, because the question is, what substance converts the sugar in the grape juice into alcohol?
Oh, wow. Quick. Oh, we got to go to the top. And then, you know, we've got a winner here. Our man, Trevor G.
Trevor
G.
Yeast.
Trevor G. Answer is yeast. Yeah, all of you got that one. Wait, Leanne is saying yeast. I was first. Was I first? Oh, sorry, Leanne. It was Trevor G. You were like 15th, Leanne. But, you know, we're glad that you guys are smart. These people know wine. Trevor G, that's a bottle of 2017 Stagecoach Single Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon coming your way. And Trevor G, I'm going to have to say, you're probably going to have to add some of this Malbec and Cabernet Sauvignon 2018. First release of the 2018s, my friends. Here's what we're going to do. Again, as Michelle has said, we want to raise some money here to support our community in this fire relief. And 25% of our proceeds from our virtual tasting packages through the end of the year and from additional wines that are purchased from you all for this virtual tasting are going to be donated to the Napa Valley Community Foundation. Okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to send you guys an email immediately following this tasting. And we've got some offers for you guys. And I hate to say the D word in front of the boss, but we have a special deal on these wines pricing for you guys. Special pricing.
They get 20% off because they're wine club members.
They
and
do.
then 25% goes to the Napa Valley Community Foundation for the fire relief efforts.
They do. We've got some packages that we're going to send you guys. $1 shipping on a case purchase. We're going to follow up with an email. Now, I do want to remind you, this is last call right now currently for our 2018 single vineyard wines and for the era. You can still get those wines at futures pricing, okay? And that's going to go up here in a couple weeks. The wines are going to be released at the end of October, beginning of November. So this is last call to get some of those special single vineyards, the 2018 Stagecoach, the Beckstoffer single vineyards, the Thomas single vineyard, and of course, our flagship wine, the Era. People slept on the 2017. I think they regretted the fact that they did, didn't they?
Well, it was the fake news about the fires of 2017.
Exactly.
Wouldn't produce great wines, and here we are, our Era flagship wine.
Yeah.
Worldwide competition with Decanter, which is an international publication. So proud of that 2017 Era, Henrik. It just blows my mind.
Love it.
And I normally don't step in and comment on sales and so on, but I will make an exception in saying I don't want to be a party pooper here, but several of these 2018 single vineyards are actually sold out. So again, I cannot stress it enough.
Party
Take
pooper.
out a second mortgage on your house, back up the truck, load as much 2018 wines into your cellar as you possibly can. You're not going to regret it.
Love it. Love it.
I like
Again,
the second mortgage part.
Second one, you know, it's only a house. It's only money. Now, again, we're going to follow up with you all with an email shortly. Get in on some of these 18s. Help us support our community. We truly appreciate it. Again, we're going to keep this virtual tasting experience going throughout the year. On Saturday, November 14th, our Giving Thanks virtual tasting. That's going to be a very special virtual tasting, not only for raising money for the Napa Valley Community Foundation, but Michelle, we have Sip Napa coming in. We have artists.
So we're very excited. We're one of the founding wineries of Sip Napa, Songwriters in Paradise. And we've hosted a couple of events for 2 years in a row. We've partnered with Gargiulo and Silver Oak and us, and then we invited Frank family in this year. They're good friends. And so what I'm doing is I'm pairing a songwriter with each of 4 wines. And they're going to tell us about a song that they wrote and why it reminds them of that wine that they're pairing their song with. And these guys are Grammy Award winning. You'll see Blake Shelton crooning a song, dashing across the stage, but you're going to meet the writers that write the songs for these people. And I tell you, they can sing better, they can play better, and they are the authors of these songs. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I was just thinking about, we were talking about doing food pairings and Thanksgiving pairings. I'm going to have one special dish that Robin Baggett's going to make, and he's going to show you the easiest and the best way to make the most perfect turkey in the world. He's going to get 2 minutes to share his secret on that day. Don't reveal.
Okay. I got it. I can do this.
He can't keep the secret.
No one cooks turkeys better than I do.
And he will do he'll out turkey himself. He'll do a turkey on the smoker, a turkey in the oven, a turkey in the other something. Can't tell you. He's going to tell you his most perfect blind tasting turkey that we've done with friends of multiple turkeys. And he's going to show you the winner and how you can get this piece of equipment.
Don't give them too much info. It's going to be a big surprise. This is good.
Love it.
This is good. I like this.
Love it.
You'll have the best turkeys for Thanksgiving.
Yes, can't wait. Again, our November 14th Giving Thanks virtual tasting, my friends. It's live on our website. You can also email us directly, reply to the email that we're going to send out. We'll get you set up with a tasting package, 4 delicious wines, Saturday, November 14th. But again, you know, thank you guys all for being here. As Michelle and Robin have said, this is all a big happy family here, not only in Alpha Omega, but in Napa Valley. And your participation in this virtual experience is supporting our community. So we are extremely grateful for you all. We love all of our members. If you're not a member with us, you can join. We'd love to have you. These are 2 wine club wines, especially that Malbec that we don't make a lot of, and it goes out to club members first. If you're interested in our club membership, reach out to our follow-up email and we can certainly set you up. Lastly, and not least, our terrace and our patio at Alpha Omega is rocking and rolling right now. We've got a full book of reservations. It's absolutely stunning. Now is actually the time to come to Napa Valley. It's beautiful. The sun is out, and you can kind of see the fall harvest colors come out in the vineyards here pretty soon. We would love to have you and host you for an incredible tasting at Alpha Omega. Our concierge department is incredible. They will take care of you. Email them at concierge@awinery.com. But Master Sommelier Bob Bath, Winemaker Henrik Poulsen, Chef Michael Wille. Look at that. I can't wait. It's been an absolute pleasure, guys. We truly appreciate it. And Vintners, Robin and Michelle Baggett.
And, you know, I just want to let everybody know that we have a tent on the lawn now. So if you don't see a lot of people behind us, because everybody is loving the shade of this tent, and our vineyard terrace is packed, this tent's going to keep us all dry in the winter. So don't be concerned about weather. We're going to keep you warm. We're going to keep you dry. We're going to keep you quenched. And we're going to have a great time this winter. So please come join us in the winter. You know, we're all outside dining and tasting wine. So I want you to dress warm. Robin and I were in the snow eating outside, supporting our restaurants in March in Tahoe. As some of you saw that we popped in virtually. So please don't let the weather bother you. Dress perfectly and come join us. This winter's going to be great.
Well, actually, there's some good news Tuesday, maybe, huh? Because we have this great California. Every state's got crazy rules. We have color-coded roads. We might jump a color on Tuesday. If we do, we can start going inside again.
25%.
Just don't get COVID between now and then, guys.
Yeah, wear your mask.
If I may throw in here, so in Denmark, my native country, we have the saying, there's no such thing as bad weather, only wrong clothing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly. That's exactly.
You're in control of how your body temperature is, right? Hey, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you all for being here with us again. And I'd love to raise a glass to you all for joining in. Everyone, thank you for being here. Another great virtual tasting. We hope to see you for our Giving Thanks virtual tasting in November or at the winery sometime soon. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, my friends, and cheers.
Cheers.
Adios and vaya con Dios, mi amigos.